Hello, hello. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you guys are having a beautiful week. I wanted to start by telling you guys about all the stuff that's on the mantle behind me because whenever I'm watching people's videos like this, I'm like, I need to know the story. So today we're going to be talking about Akashic Records, but before we do that, I'm going to take you guys through a little run through of what I got behind me, and I'm also going to take you guys through sort of my story in terms of how I even got into Akashic Records, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about how you can use the Akashic Records for your own spiritual business practices, whatever that looks like. Okay, so behind me, over here we have an ostrich egg. So all of my family members that have passed, I have like one random thing of theirs that's just like around the house in different places. So this is from my grandpa that passed on my mom's side. This is just a random phone that I got for like an idea I had for something that did not come to fruition, but I just thought it was cool. This octopus I painted with my mom at like a little mad splatter type place. These crystals I'm obsessed with. I got them at a holistic fair from one of my friends, Melissa, and I'm obsessed with them. I want to show you guys actually because that just doesn't do it justice. Okay, so literally this is what the side looked like. They're so beautiful. So these hold up my books, and I've got the Conversations with God book, Spirit Babies book. I have a spell jar. This one is specifically for self-love. I have this little teacup. This is from my grandmother who passed away. And then we have T's microphone set. Originally he had it to sing, now he has it because he's narrating his monster truck shows that he does in the living room. And then this is just a cutesy thing. I made that at a spiritual thing. That's a card from my mom, and that is all stuff that I use at fairs, but I like pull it out and like let it get some air and sunlight and all that before I put it back in. So that's the story. Hope you guys came wanting me to overshare. Okay, before we get started, I'm gonna give you guys a little run through. I wanna talk today primarily about the Akashic Records, but I need to give you a little bit of a background as to how I ended up in the Akashic Records. So I am very much somebody who I have had spiritual gifts since I was a kid. I have gone through sort of every version of what does that look like, meaning there's sometimes I thought it was super cool to have spiritual gifts, and sometimes where I was like, make it stop, make them go away. There were a lot of my life that I was what I call in the broom closet, meaning that I was working with these spiritual gifts on my own and making a lot of my decisions based on some of these spiritual gifts that I was working with, but I didn't tell anybody because I was worried about what other people might think. And I live in Greensboro, North Carolina, which is a place where the most common belief system is Southern Baptist Christianity, which is quite a bit different than what I do over here on this channel where I talk about metaphysics and, you know, energy healing, different things like that. So I struggled a lot with what to do with my gifts, why I had them. There were points in my life where I tried to get them to go away. There were points in my life where I really tried to harness them because I knew that they would help me make the right decision. But I really kind of saw my gifts most of the time, like in late teens, early adults, as either a burden or like something that I had to keep secret, right? And at this point I was married to somebody who very much thought that this world that I am in now was like fake and people who believe in it are crazy, right? And that's totally cool. Everybody's entitled to their own belief system, but like that in addition to probably kept me like more in the spiritual closet with you know, not having the confidence to really say, hey, here's you know what my life has been like and here's these experiences I've had and stuff like that. So I've been able to see and connect with spirit since I was a kid, and I've always kind of wondered like why, because it's funny growing up with gifts as a kid, because if you grow up with gifts as a kid, you assume everybody has the same reality you do. So I remember probably being like late elementary school, and I had a conversation with my mom where I found out that not everybody also sees and talks to spirits. And I was like, whoa, because again, as a kid, I think you assume your reality in your life is what everybody's is, and then you realize like, oh wait, not only is that not everybody's reality, but that might be a reality that some people don't believe in or some people, you know, have issues with. And so I kind of struggled with, what to do. And then it finally got to the point where I was early in recovery. And if you've ever worked a 12-step program, 12-step programs are spiritual programs, right? Do they help you stop drinking? Absolutely, but they do it through a spiritual path, not necessarily through a traditional path, right? Which is why it works for so many people. So as I'm going on this spiritual journey, I have this really big desire to figure out, like, what's my soul purpose? Why do I have these gifts? What am I supposed to do with them? And at this point, I happen to stumble upon the Akashic Records, and I end up learning how to access my own Akashic Records, and I start to learn how to tap into things like why I have these gifts, what am I supposed to do with them, and then it's kind of built from there. So originally, whenever I tapped into the records and I was like, hey, tell me what to do with these gifts, and they were like, oh, the gifts are to help other people in the way that you've helped yourself. And I was like, lame, give me a better answer. But that truly is what I'm doing now, right? Like, I have struggled with mental health and addiction and all these different things, and I've found a lot of non-traditional modalities to help me heal from these things. And then I realized that, like, oh, there's a lot of people like me that have, spiritual gifts or abilities that are in the closet that actually need maybe a different modality of healing than maybe people who don't have that experience, right? And so it's been interesting. So I started out originally doing readings. So I started out doing mediumship readings and Akashic Records readings. And then during that time period, I also got Reiki certified. So then I started doing Reiki sessions, Akashic readings, mediumship readings. And after a little while, I started to have a clientele that was like, hey, I'm pretty sure I can do what you can do, but I don't know how to harness it. And I also don't really feel safe doing it on my own. And I was like, okay. And people started asking me, like, can you teach me how to do this? And I was like, well, I don't know, probably. And one thing about me is if somebody, asks me, like, hey, can you teach me this? Can you show me this? I'm going to try it on, like, a few people and make sure it works before I actually start charging for it, right? Same thing with readings. I did so many free readings at the beginning because I just kept being like, whoa, it worked. I need to do another one for validation, right? And I was the same thing with classes. And then I sort of developed this technique of, while I'm doing Akashic classes for people, I also do some third eye Reiki in the process. So, if they have any limiting beliefs or self-doubt, I'm sort of pulling those out as we're in the session as well. So pretty much my business has been built around what I've channeled in the Akashic Records. And what I mean by that is the Akashic Records is a container of light where you can tap into what I like to refer to as your soul's library. For me, I actually physically, my consciousness goes to a library, and I'm very clairvoyant, so for me this is a very visual experience. And so I'm in a channel state of meditation, and I say my pathway prayer, and I connect into the Akashic Records. And my personal experience is, normally I go into a library and I sit down at a table, very much like you would sit down at a table in any library. And I'm in like a room in the library, which is my Akashic room. And I am talking to a spirit guide. For me, it's always the same spirit guide that I refer to as my Akashic guide that I work with whenever I'm in the Akashic Records. And so I'll go in, and I originally was just like, why do I have gifts and what am I supposed to do with them? And that sort of evolved to, oh, actually you can go in and do things like figure out what limiting beliefs you have that are holding you back in your business and ask that in the Akashic Record. Your business actually has an Akashic Record. You can actually go into your business's Akashic Record and do things like figure out what you're supposed to be offering, how you're supposed to be charging, what you're supposed to be doing to really make sure that people are getting the value that they need, how that all ties to your soul mission, and also like things to be working towards from the future. Like, I use the Akashic Records for all of that. And it's crazy because I'm very much aware of what my next 6 months to a year looks like business wise, but I'm also very aware of what my next 5, 10, 15, 20 years look like business wise. I wasn't at first. I want to clarify that. At the beginning, I had no idea what would happen, right? At the beginning, I very much was just like, oh, what, I'm supposed to do like mediumship readings? Like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to be the weird medium girl, like pick something else. So then I ended up doing like Akashic Records and Reiki and mediumship kind of, you know, and just offered whatever people needed. And then now, you know, it's more, I would say a lot more of my time and energy goes into more classes and things like that. I still do one-on-one readings virtually through the Akashic Records. I'll link those in the show notes, and I also have a Akashic class coming up, so I'll tell you guys about that. But now the majority of my work is more teaching people the skills and modalities that I work with, so that way they can access the things that I can access anytime, anywhere, right? Because I very much believe that the more knowledge and money we can get into the hands of light workers, the better off our society will be, right? And for me, it has definitely helped me to, I would probably say, quantum leap in my business, where I am so keenly aware of what I need to be doing, and there's so much validation that I'm on track or off track, that it's just been so crazy and like reassuring and validating and all the things, right? So I have a class coming up I wanted to tell you guys about, where I'm going to teach you guys to go in and channel your Akashic record. And what this looks like is it's a 2-hour class. It is virtually. I do recommend like wherever you're going to be comfortable for a couple of hours. Like if you prefer to lay down in your bed specifically when you meditate, if you prefer to lay down on the couch when you meditate, you're going to need a quiet space. But I'm doing a virtual Akashic Records class Monday, April 13th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And so I'm actually sharing this tonight with another group. And there's gonna be hopefully like a pretty cool mix of people kind of from everywhere on this training, which will be just so cool to hear everybody's stories and where they're from and all of that. Okay, anyway, so back to the class. So 2-hour class, normally the first like 15-20 minutes I give a little bit of knowledge and insight on what the Akashic Records are and how they work. The rest of the time is channeled sessions. I'm teaching you how to go in and do your own pathway prayer, how to access your record, how to connect with your Akashic guide, and each session is different. So the first channeled session will go in and we'll connect with your spirit guide. The next session we'll go in and we will connect with your spirit guide and say, hey, well, why am I here and what's my soul purpose? And the last session we go in and we access your business's Akashic record, or kind of your guidance that you need for next steps, right? And the one thing I'll say about the Akashic Records is you never get more information than you can handle. So like whenever I first started working in the Akashic Records, I could barely handle my guides being like, you're gonna do mediumship readings. And then later I ended up going on to like teach mediumship, and now I talk about it on the internet and like all these different things, right? So the Akashic Records wasn't like, hey, you're gonna quit your corporate HR job and start a Reiki and reading business, because I would have been like, nope, no thanks. And your guides sort of give you what you need, so that way you don't shoot yourself in the foot and sabotage something because you don't understand maybe how many steps away it is, right? So yeah, that's what we're gonna learn on Monday the 13th at 5:30 Eastern. You guys can register at the link below, and this session is really designed to teach you how to access your Akashic records so you can take that knowledge with you anywhere and then be able to access that information anytime, anywhere. So I hope that this was an interesting story for you guys. I hope you guys learned about hearing about how the records work, and I hope to see you on our class on Monday the 13th. Oh, quick thing, I do have a discount code. So I'm sharing about this class tonight, and I'm giving them a $25 off code. So I wanted to give you guys a $25 off code. So the code that I'm giving them, it's $25 off the class, and it is with the promo code GHC, and I will put that in the show notes as well. So would love to see you guys there. Hope you're having a beautiful week. If you have any questions or topics or ideas for the future, would love to hear what you guys want to hear about. Drop them in the comments or DM me. And as always, happy healing.